Trustee Brown.
Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, the information for the fitness center has not been provided, so I do not have a report for this evening. I know that we are still in the negative amount, just don't have the dollar amount. That information was not forwarded. So hopefully next month I can have that information and then I'll be able to share it with you.
And for the record, everyone gave their report this evening, and I just want to say to the Board of Trustees, if you guys will have committee meetings, I think you guys will have information that's needed. I don't like when people get up here and say that something wasn't given.
Payments on this register, $2,454,619.43. So for the payroll portion of the bills, I motion for payment of payroll for all employees that were on the payroll January 12th and before, January 12th, 2022 and before. Received the payroll list today at 4:00 p.m. So I was not able to go through that list to see any new additions or potential new additions, but there were none that were run by the board. So my motion on payroll is that any employee that was on payroll January 12th, 2022 and before be paid.
Welcome back. Today, we'll be looking at a recent board meeting when emotions arose between trustees and Mayor Tiffany Henyard due to concerns about improper employment and financial management. As we analyze this, we'll examine the key ideas raised in the conversation as well as the issues of transparency and finances. The session began with several board member briefings that summarize the various committee discussions. However, Trustee Tammy Brown expressed her dissatisfaction, saying that she had not gotten the necessary documents from Mayor Henyard's administration in a timely manner, which prevented her from completing her report. In response, Mayor Henyard downplayed the concern and said her administration welcomes any questions. This discussion set the stage for a meeting that would quickly get heated. One of the primary points of contention was Mayor Henyard's attempt to secure funding for individuals she had hired without the board's approval. Jason House, a trustee, strongly opposed this conduct and denounced it right away. In order to restrict payroll payments to employees who were already employed as of January 12, 2022, the House introduced a motion that would exclude any new hires who had not passed board screening. His explanation was simple. These employees had gotten around the standard approval process and lacked proper management. Jason House stated unequivocally that Mayor Henyard's actions did not benefit the public. He called attention to the fact that previous recruits who were under her supervision had criminal records, including one who was authorized to enter residence houses as a code enforcement officer. This particular appointment raised serious ethical and safety concerns because it appeared to be a politically motivated recruitment rather than a decision made for the community's welfare. House reiterated that proper background checks and board clearance are necessary before employing new employees. In addition to the payroll debate, the House tried to exclude some corporate payments from approval by drawing attention to these transfers. He raised awareness of ongoing problems with the transparency of financial transactions. Henyard's administration has been regularly reprimanded by trustees for its spending habits, particularly in relation to public gatherings and events that appear to be more publicity stunts than necessary expenditures. House asserts that while these meetings are often portrayed as beneficial to the community, their primary objective is to enhance Mayor Henyard's standing. After that, Trustee Kiana Beller brought up more questionable financial transactions. She specifically brought up a reimbursement of $1,000 that had been granted for a property at 14-812 Indiana. This deal raised issues because the property owner had previously paid the village $155,000 but only received a $1,000 return. The fact that another individual obtained a second refund for the identical property further raised questions about the legitimacy of these payments. Beller's concerns pointed to a lack of documentation and transparency. She noted that because the trustees received this financial information late on Friday, they had little time to investigate it before Monday's meeting. The ongoing issue of delayed access to documents prevents trustees from making informed decisions about financial clearances. Trustee Ed Steve also voiced his frustration, pointing out that $625,000 in checks had been written after the board had received the warrant list. He asserted that this demonstrated a fundamental lack of checks and balances. The trend of last-minute financial disclosures made it nearly difficult for trustees to conduct proper supervision. The administration's lack of transparency about credit card statements was also questioned by trustee Brittany Norwood. She brought up the fact that trustees had not received a credit card spending update in months. Given the administration's spending habits, this raised more concerns about potential embezzlement of public funds. Mayor Henyard responded to a trustee's concerns with a contemptuous smirk. Instead of explicitly responding to their questions, she employed a tactic that has grown common in these meetings: blame shifting and deflection. Instead of having a productive discourse, she attempted to downplay the issues, which left a lot of issues unsolved. As tensions grew, it became clear that the primary issue was not just the particular financial operations, but also the administration's overall lack of transparency and accountability. Trustees desired more than a means of cutting expenditures. They desired a responsible approach to financial management. The first portion of our analysis is now finished. We'll examine the meeting's outcome, the administration's responses, and the final resolution of the financial issues in Part 2.
And second, any discussion?
May I be recognized?
Yep, go ahead.
There was a couple of questions. We received this on Saturday in reference to some things. No, it was late Friday. I want to be correct. In reference to some things that was on the warrant list. And Trustee House just pulled some of the items, but there were some questions about some refunds that were issued. We have 14812 Indiana, which was $1,000 refund was issued to EPG Chicago SSH LLC, but they turned over a $15,000 check to the Village of Dalton. So it was a question in reference to that, because that same day, another $1,000 check was issued to the same property, which is a house at 14812 Indiana, and then the owner was David Cannon. So we pulled that because there was an email that went out stating that we have to copy the village administrator and set an appointment to speak to either housing or finance or whatever. And if we got it on Friday evening, and today was the only day that we can really speak to someone, we wouldn't have accurate documents of why they paid $15,000 and only got $1,000 back. And it's a home and two different
A motion on the remainder of the bills is that the remaining corporate bills is read into record, be paid with the exclusion of DLC Properties, which is on page 6 of the warrant list, $1,000 payment. EPG Chicago payment of $1,000 is on page 7. Fink Safe and Lock Co., which is on page 7, $5,000. Page 12, Neighborhood Surveillance Systems, $12,129.36, and additionally excluding all manual checks. So my motion is to pay corporate bills with the exclusions noted.
The first portion of our analysis is now finished. We'll examine the meeting's outcome, the administration's responses, and the final resolution of the financial issues in Part 2. Let us know your thoughts on this situation. Should trustees take more decisive action to stop unauthorized spending? What actions can municipal governments do to improve financial transparency as well? Prior to being elected mayor, Tiffany Henyard served as a trustee and was outspoken about the lack of transparency in board meetings. She frequently questioned the administration about spending, voting, and budgetary allocations, and she pushed for answers on financial matters. One well-known instance was a $28,000 charge that she found odd. At the time, Henyard was stubborn and wouldn't approve expenses without the necessary documentation. She urged staff to bring succinct answers to meetings so trustees may make educated decisions about how to use taxpayer dollars. Her justification was simple. Board members are entitled to ask questions regarding financial decisions prior to approving them. As we get into the present, Mayor Henyard's perspective has entirely evolved. The same person who previously pushed for trustee accountability now refuses to provide the board with basic information. As before, She reacts to concerns raised by current trustees in a condescending, dismissive, and authoritarian way. She blamed the trustees, claiming that instead of providing firm answers at the meeting, they should have asked questions in advance. But wasn't she the same person who had before demanded transparency in meetings? This hypocrisy has not gone unnoticed. Many members of the board and members of the public are now denouncing her for doing exactly what she had previously condemned. Mayor Henyard usually turns these meetings into a show instead of addressing their problems, making it seem like the trustees are arguing about irrelevant topics. In reality, however, these investigations are necessary because, without oversight, public funds could be embezzled with no consequences. This is the primary distinction between Trustee Tiffany Henyard and Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Outside, she demanded transparency and accountability, but now that she is in charge, those same values seem to have disappeared. This raises serious concerns about leadership hypocrisy and financial accountability, both of which directly impact Dalton's residents and taxpayers. The question now is, how much longer will trustees and the general public tolerate this? What do you think, though? Is there more to this tale than a traditional case of power corrupting leadership? Let's continue the conversation in the space provided for comments below. If this explanation was helpful, please hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe for more in-depth reporting on government accountability and political scandals. Stay educated, stay involved, and keep demanding the truth until the next time. I'll see you at the next one.